Sim.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Mad Lukes. My name is Sim. Along with me are my co-hosts Mahin Islam and my man Mort. How y'all doing this afternoon or this evening rather?
I'm doing all right, bro. So why don't you go ahead and explain to them why we are all remote?
The situation, brothers, is that we had the Adab come through the western suburbs of Chicago. We had tornado-like winds that ripped through the suburbs and tore off all the power that's coming to the studios of the beautiful studios of Mad Mamluks. Basically, we don't have any power until Saturday. So,
Okay. Sorry about the title. We just kind of did Streamlabs, and it said Samir Eats.
You freaking
No, but I just did it from Streamlabs. I didn't know it would come up. I put a title in Streamlabs. I didn't know it would come up on there, but whatever. It's okay. We'll change it later. Yeah, go ahead and fix it. So, this is a little bit awkward because we're doing Streamlabs for the first time, and we all have pretty I don't know, not our normal outfit. Like, I mean, the mics and the audio quality, sound quality, and the video quality.
Yeah, it's kind of It wasn't really. I was a bit hesitant when you said let's air this on Mad Mamluks. I'm like, you know what? What the heck? Let's just go ahead and do it. I saw your setup that you've been doing on your own channel. I kind of like how some of the notifications pop up with StreamYard. You know,
Yeah.
when people are texting or getting a little bit chatty in the chat box.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. I wish they somehow integrated a little bit better with OBS, like an OBS style. Well, granted, I know they're kind of limited because it's like a web format, like it's not a actual software you download. So I'm sure it's probably limited in that way. But I think just for like streaming and we have multiple people, it's pretty good. I mean, it worked pretty well. The problem though with this thing, I mean, the cool thing is though with Streamlabs, you don't need to have an intensive computer like a media computer, right? With OBS, like if you really want to really use it the way it should be, you got to have a halfway decent like a media PC. Like you got to have a decent graphic card. You have to have like all the audio set up the way it should be, and then there's a lot of customization you have to do in order to get everything set up properly. So I guess this works out well just for us, and it's good.
You're recording this, by the way, right?
Actually, StreamYard actually records itself, and you can download the link later from within StreamYard. It keeps it for about 15 days before it deletes it.
Nice.
So you can download either just the audio or the audio and the video, which is pretty cool.
All right. So before Amir joins, so I want to get y'all's take on the Kamala Harris.
Yeah,
hey, Sim called it. I didn't think that he would pick her because she embarrassed the hell out of him. But I think he got kind of cornered into doing it because he opened his mouth and said, you know, I'm going to pick a woman, a minority woman. And what other option is there out there?
Yeah.
I mean,
Stacey or Pocahontas.
Well, she's not a minority. She was fake, right? Yeah.
I thought he said it was going to be a woman. I don't think he was going to be a minority, right?
Yeah, he said woman. He didn't say.
Well, I think through the course of the campaign, it ended up being, well, yeah, it's going to be a minority too, I believe.
Wait, identity politics goes with the Democrats. You knew that it was a high probability that there's going to be some overlap with just not her just being a woman, but her being also a different ethnicity. Do we as Indians take pride in Kamala's being chosen as a VP?
No, yani she's the kafira.
Of course. But there are some Muslims out there who are very proud of this, the fact that she is an Indian ethnicity, and that is somehow a point of pride for them.
Well, were they proud of Babi Jindo?
I don't know.
No, that's a bias. That's the bogus bias. Like when a black person whose like policies have like shown to be detrimental to the black community runs on a democratic platform, there's like, oh, you know, this is good and this and that, you know, and like that fraud Sean King. You see what he said? He got exposed.
Yeah, he did.
But like anybody who's a minority on the Republican ticket, like, you know, nobody gives them like a time of day. It's like if you like think about supporting them, you're a lunatic.
Well, because I think there's a reason for that. Oh, let me just add him in here. All right. Welcome, Shaykh, Your Holiness Amir. We're live.
Welcome, boys.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Yeah, we missed you about 30 minutes ago when you started.
Sorry, guys. My apologies.
We don't
It's a
accept.
little different, when you got to work out of home or do a podcast out of home, there's all these things that come up. When you leave the house and then you go to the studio, it's just you're out of the house before too many things get caught up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, I apologize, guys.
That's true.
Cool. Yeah, we were talking about the Kamala Harris vice president appointee or nomination, thingamajig, and we were talking about how so Mort, you were saying why do minorities who run on Republican tickets you see very little minority love for them?
Well, I think the reason why, at least from my perspective, is that usually minorities who tend to join the Republican ticket are commonly associated with being Uncle Toms. And they just, for example, listen, Bobby Jindal, right? Do you remember the whole spectacle of him having his portrait taken and he made himself look white?
Yep, I remember that. Yep.
Right. And then he goes, "Our forefathers and the Confederate in the South." And I'm thinking bro, you have nothing to do with the Confederate States. They're not your forefathers, right? And that kind of stuff, it's really cringe. And you see that, you see the Jesse Lee Petersons, the Ben Carsons, the, Herman Cain, right, who passed away. But you see these kinds of people, and it's just cringe, right? You feel like they've kind of, it's not so much that they talk a certain way or they're acting white, but it's just the fact that they're so willing and ready to cater to the right-wing arguments and basically crap on their own community. You can't really respect them. You think they're the odd one, the minority. They don't represent the main body of people. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of hard for people to back them up. I got you.
Yeah. So Amir, so you just mentioned the whole thing about the studio. How when you're at the studio, you have your own space. I was talking to Omer Hasib last night, and he hit me up out of the blue, and we were talking about going to the gym. And so he has a gym set up in his basement that he started during Corona. And I wanted to get your take because I know your brother just started this gym up. What are your thoughts? So I think I'm going to go back to the gym probably the next couple of days. I know Sim's been going because I figured I didn't want to go right when they opened back up in early July. I figured if we've given it now over 6 weeks, and I haven't heard of any outbreaks from gyms in Illinois.
Yeah, you value your life too much. You're attached to the dunya.
There's a Yahi in there?
I mean,
you need to join the Ahl Sufa. You need to don the cloth, as they say,
So does that mean go to the gym or not go to the gym?
That means go to the gym. You shouldn't value your life so much.
What's with the accent, bro? I'm just curious. What's with the accent?
That's the way that the Shabab talk.
Hey, but
which Shabab is specific, bro? Come on.
Huh?
Nothing.
Hey, so I was going to ask you, Sim, so I know you're big into swimming and stuff, right? Is that the only thing you're doing there, or do you hit the other stuff as well?
Bro, normally I would do other things, but because of the huge break that I was without the access to the pool for so many months during the lockdown, that I had to do extra time in the pool so that I can get back to where I want to be at, in terms of form, technique, endurance, and all that. I worked a whole year before the lockdown started on my freestyle technique and everything. So it was really important that I recover that and not let that get lost. So
yeah, I remember you got really into it too, bro. You were talking about breathing techniques and how your mouth has to hover above the water and go right back in. And then the mouth where you're taking oxygen and all that stuff.
Swimming freestyle is it has so many different moving parts that it's impossible to pay attention to everything at once. So it has to be natural, as if you're riding a bike, or something. You can't actively say hey, I need to do this. I need to keep my toes pointed, and I need my left arm to be a little bit more higher when I'm going in for a stroke. You have to. It all has to come naturally. So you're as you fix one thing, you notice another area dropping off or not up to par and needs more tweaking. And it's a science. And in order to be,
man. It's not easy.
yeah, in order to really perfect and be an expert swimmer, you have to have all these different moving parts down, and everything, all your technique and everything, it starts degrading as you're getting tired, as your endurance level is falling. So you're also working on that, so that when you're getting tired, you're also maintaining your form, and you're not. If you don't keep your form up, then you're adding on to your problems, and everything else starts falling apart. So it's really important that all these moving parts are in sync, and that's what I kind of love about swimming. It's almost like playing a musical instrument or something that's involves a lot of different elements of physical activity.
Yeah, dude. When swimmers swim, bro, it's poetic, man. It's something else. Because like when you swim and then you see somebody else swimming, like how Olympic swimmers swim, bro, it's poetry.
Really, what got me into it, for years as a kid, I've always watched swimming. Was my favorite event in the Olympics, and I always wanted to learn it. And sometime late, about a year ago or so, maybe a year and a few months, I started just watching YouTube videos about swimming, and just took one step at a time. I barely could even swim a lap, and I would swim like an uncle, splish, splash, water everywhere.
That's how I swim.
Dolphin kicks in the back. Just made a complete fool of myself in the lap pool, while all these really smooth swimmers are just coasting by. All these, fit and walking by, and you're like you feel like you're, inadequate, but you just say, you know what? Keep your eyes down, bro. Fear Allah, and just keep on swimming, keep looking down in humiliation, and swim those laps. And every day, I would watch a 15-minute clip on YouTube and just follow those instructions and just keep on adding on top of that. It's just like playing an instrument. Many times people look at an instrument like, I don't want to mention any haram instrument, but let's just say something halal, and you think that, oh my God, there's so many emotions involved, and you have to take one step at a time. You have to break it down to the most basic element and then add on top of it the next day. And that's how I got to where I am today.
And with swimming, though, in the gym, you're not like, it's by natural, I would think, you're distance from people, right? You don't have to worry about, like, it's not a space issue.
Well, you usually have lanes,
Chlorine,
right?
Lanes, yeah. You're not a bunch of kids.
I started swimming at an early age. So like it's like riding a bicycle. Once you do it and you get the rhythm, like I'm not saying I'm an expert swimmer, but you just know how
to from drowning at your aunt's house though.
Oh, I did. Do you remember that? Oh wow, yeah. So since you brought that up, it's kind of a funny story. So there's a mutual friend that we all know, okay? And I'm like, hey, my aunt has this big pool, we always go there all the time. And I'm entitled to it because growing up, I was the youngest grandson, so I would always be the one opening and closing the pool. So I had like exclusive rights to the pool. And this aunt doesn't let anybody else like just come in, but I could come anytime I wanted to. Well, anyway, so this guy was like, hey, I want to go swimming. I'm like, all right, okay. So I'm like, do you know how to swim, dude? He's like, yeah, I can swim. And then as we're driving closer, he's like, well, I haven't swam in a really long time. I'm like, okay, no problem. And then right when we get there, he's like, I don't really know how to swim. And I'm like, okay, well, stay in the shallow end. Like I put the little floater thing where you can pull across the line just to make sure like they don't go past it, like a barrier. I put that there. And he's like jumping around in like the shallow end, like in the 3 foot. And in the pool, there's a decline or like a ramp that goes down to go in the deep end. And he starts sliding on that going down. And he's going, like jumping up and down, right? I thought he's joking, right? I'm laughing at the guy. I'm like,
he was a goofball, so it seemed like he was joking around.
I'm like, stop playing. You're not drowning, whatever. I'm just laughing at the guy. He's drowning. And then he just goes down. He doesn't come up. And I'm just like, okay. And he's a real pretty boy at this time, by the way, right? He's just like a macho guy. So I'm like, oh crap. And I just like jump in and then like I dive down and I pull him up. And I'm trying to bring him up to the surface and swim backward. And he's like trying to climb me, right? Because naturally he's panicked. So when someone's trying to climb you while you're swimming, it's hard for you to keep because they're pulling you down. But luckily at that time I was much stronger and younger. I got up, grabbed the ledge, and I was able to like lift him and pull him and throw him over the top. And he ended up like posing while throwing up. It was the weirdest thing. Like he was still posing because he's such a pretty boy, and he was posing, and I'm like, finally, but yeah, it was just a really.
You gotta try to impress them, bro.
Huh?
People are around, bro. You gotta try to impress them, dude. Why are you throwing
no, it was just me and him, dude. Nobody was there.
Somebody's, there may have been shaking in the background. You didn't know. Maybe,
who knows? You know. But anyways, but yeah, I mean, I think swimming is great. I mean, it really is, but the problem is most people don't have a decent place to swim at, right? Like, I mean, I could assume if it wasn't for the COVID situation, the pools probably get packed at these gyms all the time, especially being in the cold climate like Chicago. I'm sure those gyms are always packed, and then like, not to mention a lot of probably women walk around without their aura covered, and that stuff like that. But
what do you wear when you go swimming?
He wore Speedos, bro.
Me?
He was a burkini.
When you
he was a burkini when he goes.
I what the Sharia permits.
Hey, why don't we make a speedkini? Like a.
Because like, dudes, we still got to cover like, hey. So Amir, we still got to cover up to the navel, right? When we go swimming.
Yeah.
No. Wait, I got a question.
Wait, what are you drinking? Can you show us what you just drank real quick? What did you sneak there?
Cherry wine. It's like red soda, like cherry soda. Anyways, look.
Did it beat something?
This is cherry wine. Listen. This serious question, Amir. If you're in the water, your outer is covered. So do you have to you could be naked, right? I mean, only when you come out of the water, you got to be covered.
I mean, that's a great question. I'm glad you're thinking that way.
I mean, I'm just saying, like,
what do you get? You got to make sure there's no sun outside. You got to make sure it's not bright because when you look in the water, you can see everything almost.
Someone has to be literally on top of you.
No, or they just dip their head under the water. They can see everything underneath, magnified.
Have you tried to open your eyes in chlorine, bro?
Actually, I have, yeah.
It's not that good, but what happens if you're swimming and you just pull down by your navel? Like you're not all the way off.
If you're alone, it doesn't matter.
No, I'm saying, what if you're swimming in a public pool and then you just naturally the water is pulling the shorts down?
Yeah, that's going to happen. I mean, that's very, very much going to happen. You just have to do the best that you can, even before Salah,
I think what Shaykh Amir is saying is you have to hold your shorts with one hand while you swim.
That's not what I'm saying. You have to do whatever you can to the best of your ability, but naturally when you swim, they'll go up, they'll go down. When you float in water, the legs come up, that's fine. Well, you're just talking about going swimming naked, right? But that's how you were insinuating. That's a little different. Unless there's food coloring in the water.
We have to provide some kind of evidence for this. In the pool specifically, what is the correct attire for a man?
No, it has nothing to do with the pool. It's just that our aura is from right below our navel, meaning right below the belly button, up to our knees, right? And that's everywhere.
Yeah, Shaykh, I'm underwater.
Yeah, Shaykh.
So that's great. So we kind of covered that.
But I actually have a real important question, to be honest with you. More because you used to go biking a lot. Sim, you do some biking. Mahin, you look more like a rollerblading type guy, but
I am a couch potato.
Okay, good. At least you put a potato.
Yeah, I know what's called Ahl Sofa.
Ahl Sofa.
That was actually really good, bro.
That was funny, actually. That was the funniest one you've made so far.
That's better than internal laugh too. Like I'm internally laughing too.
That's better than morsel.
Yeah, that's better than a lot of your other jokes. You shabab, the shababs, yani. So, anyways, so I just sold this mountain bike that I got for $50. I sold it for 40, right? And I got a Diamondback. You guys know what a Diamondback is?
Yeah.
Like snake.
Yeah, I used to have one.
Yeah, so I got a really good price on it. I got it for $80.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wait, is it a road bike or is it a dual purpose?
No, it's a mountain bike.
So it's a hybrid?
It's a light mountain bike. No, it's not a hybrid.
So it's got the thick tires?
It's a mountain bike. Yeah, it's thick tires.
Okay.
It's a mountain bike, but it's a light on the lighter side.
Mine was stolen recently. You might have bought it. You might have bought
What
mine.
color? What color is yours?
It was like black, bro.
The mongoose?
Is yours a black?
What brand is yours, bro?
Diamondback.
No, it's not.
No, bro.
Wallah, what? That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, hold up. Mine is teal colored.
Wait, you colored?
Hmm?
Pretty color you got for yourself.
Yeah,
It matches your eyes, you blue-eyed devil.
I posted it on Facebook too because somebody said they wanted to buy it for $150. So I thought, hey, why not? But the only dilemma I'm having with that thing is, you know where the stem for the handlebars is?
Okay.
It's a hex.
Yeah.
You know, you have to kind of like unscrew that and hit it and then raise. That's what I did with my other bike, is, you know, to raise the handlebar. But the hex is a little rusty inside. So when I had a hex thing, I tried to do it a little slowly, but it kind of warped the
stripped it, you mean?
Yeah.
It stripped the top.
Yeah.
So you got to get a special. That means you got to get a tighter socket for it. It's not fitting properly. That's why.
Yeah, the next one up is not fitting it.
Well, no. Then you got to get a socket that fits it.
No.
And then spray some WD-40 on it. If it doesn't work, get a blowtorch and heat it up, and then you can do it.
Wait, hold on. Am I blowtorching first, or am I?
No, you first WD-40. Let it go.
Want to go up in a flame? Look. What are you trying to do to me, bro?
No, bro. Anyways, we'll talk after the show about this because I thought you had like a real question. Like this is just
he's asking some technical questions. Like, yo, YouTube it. Hey, I got a question in the chat. OZ or Oz? It's not Umar Zaman. He's been asking this for a few weeks. Actually, we've been kind of blowing this off. He wants to know about the role of Sufism in the future and why do Buddhism and Hinduism seem to have a monopoly on this spiritual stuff amongst the whites, and et cetera, et cetera. So how do we like take advantage of like this new age hippie spiritual? I don't know. Is that
I'm
not a Sufi, so I don't know. I mean,
relax, hang on. So there's an overlap that is similarities that happen with other faiths and beliefs that Islam also shares. Okay, it doesn't necessarily mean that Sufism is in line with Hinduism or Buddhism or other isms. There is a nature within Sufism related to asceticism where you let go of your worldly attachments and you try to join the Sufa, the people of the cloth. This is where the name Sufism came from.
Sufa is not cloth, it's suhuf. That means
no, you're talking about suf. They're two different things there.
Yeah,
Sufi comes from a few different derivatives. One of them is possibly as people of the Sufa. One of them is the people that were simple. They used to wear wool, so that's where it comes from.
Suhuf, yeah.
Suf, right? Sufi. Anyways, but that's what we were talking about. But anyway,
explain now that
spirituality.
Belligerent interrupted me. Go ahead, Chef.
Go ahead. No, I'm done, bro. Go ahead. Continue your thing.
Oh, yeah. Listen, by the way, we have a funny comment in the chat. It says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Murtada Shaykh Amir didn't learn anything from our CDW ergonomics installation project. That's somebody that used to work for me before.
Anyway.
No, that was funny. Whoever you are, thank you. That made my day. That made my night.
Wait, where are you seeing the comments? I can't see them.
I'm on YouTube.
Yeah, so hold on. Usually we see it in this comment thing. I can highlight, but I can't do it here because Sim doesn't know the login, and I had to use the key. But if you use a key, you don't see the comments here. You actually have to log in to the YouTube platform, and link it that way in order to see comments.
Okay, so you're talking about similarities, Sim. Sorry.
Yes, Chef. Can you explain to us why sometimes Islam has some similarities with other faiths, and how do we reconcile the issue of things like letting go of worldly desires and Sufism having similarities with other faiths? Does that in any way take away from the miraculous beauty of our religion?
No, so I'm going to answer that. But is this answering the question of the one who just asked the question?
The question who is asking the questioner.
No, that's not the question. He's asking basically how. Okay, let me just go back and answer the question. All right. How
understand.
Sufi? Wait, the question is how Sufism can play a role in this new spiritual generation. That's just basically okay. Meaning, in light of Buddhism and Hinduism that have a monopoly on this particular fitra spiritual or this. I don't know. It says Buddhism and Hinduism have a monopoly on this fitra spiritual whites.
No, the thing is, white folks. White folks when they think about like come on now.
You lagged there. Go ahead. Say it again. You lagged.
Oh, so I was like, you know how white folks be like, oh, dude, I'm gonna be Buddhist because of the spirituality.
Wow, I never heard you talk to that, but yeah, I know what you mean. So that's what I mean. Even with like Kamala Harris and Tulsi Gabbard, she has that element of Hinduism too in her life, right? So there's some people that actually grew up around Hindus. There's some people who are seeking a certain type of spirituality. They're trying to fill a void inside of their heart. There happens to be the whole culture of yoga that sparked a certain type of understanding of namaste and peace and being vegetarian and staying away from those things that have souls. And so there's that avenue, which is a little more contemporary, that came from like yoga and other Indian gurus and people that wanted to seek out monks and that whole culture of monks and all that kind of stuff that always existed. People always want to seek out monks, and they hear monks are like, wow, that's so cool, they're so spiritual and all that kind of stuff. Right? When I was even growing up, this is on the same topic, but when I was growing up, I knew this guy who was like, bro, he was a Muslim guy. He's like, bro, you know how awesome like Buddhist monks are? It's like there was an experiment that was done to them. They were given like copious amounts of acid and it didn't even affect them. Like LSD, and it didn't even affect them, bro. That's how intellectual, that's how spiritual they are, bro. And I was like, all right, that's cool, man, whatever, That's a true story. That's what he told me. He told me that.
No, I'm laughing because when I was with that Naqshbandi group, they used to say that people do drugs like acid and stuff because they want to achieve that divine presence like we do, but we do it through dhikr. And so we have a high that's higher than theirs. Yeah. I was like, and when I was there, I was like, oh my God, that sounds so cool. I want to get high.
But it's a similar pathway. It's so that's actually kind of similar. And we could talk to Usman Mohni about that when he comes on, inshallah.
Is there any evidence that some of these, I'm not saying mainstream ulama, but some of these offshoot sects who are trying to achieve certain levels of spirituality, that they may have experimented with psychedelic mushrooms or even simple?
I don't know. I have no idea, to be honest with you. And I'm not saying that.
Those who have, even Muslims who have experimented with this, have spoken about achieving a higher state of closeness with God during their intoxicated period, that they felt very close to God in that period, and that they were shown different portals of their soul and different dimensions within their heart and things that they need to work on that they would normally have overlooked, and they found poisons festering into deep crevices of their hearts that was just lodged in and waiting for someone to pick out.
Go Power Rangers!
He was on a roll, bro. Why'd you just do that? Look how much
he drops. That's what he does.
Because I'm like, it's just going on this rant about like these crazy things. Is that what they do, Sim?
There's two things.
Sim, is that what they do? Is that how they behave?
Broke before your shift. Can you answer, please?
Yeah.
No, wait, hold on. I want to ask Tim something though. I want to ask him. Is that what you've heard from them before? Like, I've never heard that. Like, I mean,
Muslims who have experimented with psychedelics have oftentimes explained their journey during the psychedelic trip, usually lasting for any kind of range of period, but they've discovered a deep connection with God that they normally would not have felt, and they felt this may have been what some of the Sufi mystics have been talking about in the past, in their attempt to reach a closeness to God that normally would not have been attainable for the average mind. The mind that is in its dormant state. But when it's in this awakened state, that's heightened by psychedelics and things like that.
And alcohol may do that too. Yeah.
able to look inwardly into different areas of their presence, their spirituality, their soul, things that they would not have known about themselves. They've, went on a journey of self-discovery and found things that were frightening about them that they need to correct. And they said that in the end, it made them a better person.
Yeah.
Now, and this, I'm not, obviously it's haram, but I'm just saying, is it possible some of these mystics may have experimented with this in the past, and sometimes, I was in the back for a second.
Sorry.
So, thank you, Mort, for interrupting me again. But yeah, so what's your opinion on this?
So I know in the past, obviously there's people in the past, quote unquote mystics, who have experimented and have used, and you probably know people personally. I know some people personally. Now, when you said, do I know any scholars, contemporary personally? I mean, you kind of brushed on it when you said it a few minutes ago. No, I don't know any scholars contemporarily that do that. But have there been people in the past? Of course. Now, you've asked a bunch of cool things. We'll try to summarize everything because that dude still asked a question about similarities, and we'll talk about all that too. But the first thing is that just because something has benefit in it, even for your iman, it doesn't mean that's okay. A lot of poets who used to sing their poetry and have the deepest poetry was when they were drunk also, right? And some of the most profound ideas that come from people, even about themselves, like you said, finding issues about yourselves and like filth or whatever the case is, and psychedelics, ayahuasca, all the stuff that people talk about, peyote, LSD, the works.
Yes, you're very informed about the subject.
Yeah, marijuana. People utilize all of these, and just because they use it and they think about Allah, it doesn't make it okay when they're drunk or when they're high or whatever the case is, because what a lot of the drugs do not only have to do with dopamine, but all the other chemicals that make you emotional and make you think, whatever are embedded thoughts and feelings are going to be what you're going to resort to during these highs. Another deception, and there's a lot of study that's done on this, a lot of deception is with people that are high, and we could talk about this to the addiction psychologist that's going to be on the Mad Mamluks, inshallah, is that when people are under the influence even of marijuana, when they're thinking of something and they think it's profound, a lot of times it's not actually profound, but to them it's just very much magnified, right? There's actually a deception sometimes that takes place. And so be it. There's some people who are under the influence that came out with phenomenal ideas, so be it. But Islamically, just because something makes you a better person, that action doesn't mean that it's okay if it's an intoxicant. Do you understand what I'm saying? So someone could say, well, how can we reconcile that Islam wants us to be the best? Well, now, if there's a doctor that somebody has whatever type of ailment and sickness and believe that this is the only thing that can help this person, right? Then that's something else, because LSD sometimes experimented in small doses I forgot what sickness it was. I was reading a bunch of articles on that. But LSD does help some people in very small microdoses with certain types of suicidal or certain types of depression or certain types of, I can't remember what it is, but
sicknesses of the heart.
Okay. Well, how about this? We'll call it sicknesses of the heart, but contemporarily is known as psychology. But for sicknesses of the heart, I know it sounds very, very elementary, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to resort to Him and read His kalam and get shifa from it, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاء, and we reveal in the Quran what's shifa and the rahmah for the believers, right? So not only is there shifa in it, meaning of yourself and internally, your feelings, your psyche, right? But also physically, right? And there's a rahmah in it. But if somebody needs to resort to psychedelics, and they say that, because let me give you a small example, right? Person A uses psychedelics and he says, dude, that's the only, and I've heard people say this, that's the only way. Wallahi, I heard a brother say this, and I was probably like my second year in college or first year in college. I knew this dude, and he was, bro, I took so much shrooms that I felt like I was talking to God. Wallahi.
Isn't that what I was saying earlier?
I'm sorry, I know. He felt like, but was he really talking to Allah? No, he wasn't talking to Allah. Was he on that level? There's a deception that takes place, especially with mushrooms. And you could talk to many, many people, lots of interviews with people about mushrooms. I'm talking about people who used it and realized what's actually happening. The brain and whatever is happening is making you believe in something that's actually not present.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a humongous deception. Even scholars of the past said, even with marijuana, like, what actually is a high? Some scholars were of the opinion, consulting medical doctors and physicians of their time, that some of it has to do with being in another realm with the shayateen. Right? So it opens up other pathways and corridors and different realms with the shayateen, and that's a lot of explanation that people even have for ayahuasca, where they're actually talking to spirits, and these spirits, some people believe that they're actually communicating with shayateen. Wow. And they're giving them false information, right? So all of that stuff.
One of the reasons why they always say to do that with a partner, so that, you know, in case you do encounter what they call a bad trip, where you're basically freaking out. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're encountering shayateen, but so I guess it's a possibility that you do, right? I mean,
and shaitan will utilize when you're vulnerable. He'll utilize that too, right? So I'm not saying all bad trips and when people, you know, consume too much cannabis, whatever the drug. I'm not saying it's strictly shayateen that are infiltrating that person, but I'm saying the plant that's ingested, which is haram to take in, who's to say that you're not actually accessing another realm that has to do with shayateen and the jinns, right? It's a possibility. Right. But that's why whatever spirituality that people are feeling, that's whatever that is, that's cool. But it's haram to consume any type of intoxicant.
Oh, okay.
The real work has to be put in. Look, even as far as shortcuts, some people think it's a shortcut, right? Now, Islam is not big on shortcuts. Like, think about marriage and think about zina, right? Now, what some people do for zina is they just pay an individual, right, known as a prostitute, and then they're done. But what do Muslims have to do if somebody has the urge and they want to get married? What do? They have to talk to the person, their family, the wali, and it's a whole process. Sometimes people are engaged for 2 years, right? So Islam is not big on shortcuts at all. It's about submission to Allah and the way He tells us to go about that process, even if it's more gruesome. And even if you're not getting the same results, you know, and I'm loosely using that, as what you would get on psychedelics or on highs.
Gotcha. Okay, so the brother's question wasn't really about drugs. That was a nice little tangent, though. His bottom line question is this: in the West, should Sufism be used as a marketing, kind of like, to introduce people to Islam, because people like spirituality more so than dogma and religion?
Yeah,
absolutely. I think so. I mean, Chef, you can elaborate as soon as you know, I comment. But what I'm saying is that in terms of what capitalism and this void that is this empty hole that is in people's soul, this consumerism is really created people chasing the next high, one after another, you know, and eventually what happens is some kind of angst or disillusionment with life and some kind of that sets in. And this is why one of the reasons why you're seeing such high suicidal rates in America. I think suicide rates are more higher than they've ever been in the history of the United States. Mark, do you know off the top of your head what kind of numbers we're looking at in terms of suicide rates? I can't. It was some ridiculous number, but every year it's like quite an astronomical.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But yeah, Chef, why don't you go ahead and talk about like the ability? Is it right or wrong to market a certain aspect of Islam? Maybe something could be. I mean, yes, there is this aspect of Islam that is really missing from American society, but I feel like even the political system of Islam is kind of missing. If we kind of show to the American people the Muslim way of how to handle economics and how interest and usury are destructive to American society. That can also be a feature that can be presented to the American people. There's many. I guess maybe I'm answering my own question or the brother's question right now, but maybe it depends on the audience you're speaking to and which social circle you're involved in. You may want to curtail your message and you want to bring out the features of Islam that may appeal to that specific audience, right?
Yeah, so every religion obviously has that element of, some choose to call it mysticism, in order to gravitate to that part of the soul of the individual, to bring them to a higher being, right? Hindus have mysticism, Buddhists have mysticism, right? But in Islam, the concept of, and let's just refer to it as spirituality for right now, because spirituality is an understatement for what we refer to as ihsan in Hadith Jibreel, right? Everything in Islam, as far as spirituality begins, as far as spirituality is started from أَن تَعْبُدَ اللَّهَ كَأَنَّكَ تَرَاهُ. You worship Allah as if you see Him, which has a decent explanation to it, meaning a decent sized explanation. فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَاهُ. And if you don't see Him, know that He sees you, which is second stage. Everything as far as spirituality starts from this portion as far as hadith are concerned, right? And in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that your wealth and your children will not benefit you. Nothing will benefit you, not your wealth, not your children, except for those who come to Allah with a sound heart, with a pure heart. So there's an element that has to do with the heart and this purity. And people have tried many different types of spirituality exercises to attain this level with their creator, right? So in Islam, very, very simple. The Sharia is divided into three small particles, three small parts. The first is belief in Allah. The second is the how-tos of Islam. The three is my connection with Allah. All three of these have to be present for the human being to be present with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you're all about spirituality, the balance is very, very important. If you're all about spirituality and you're neglecting your ibadat and you're neglecting your belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the way He wants you to believe in Him and the way He wants you to be conscious of Him, then that spirituality is going to be very mendable to outside influences, which is not expected from Allah. Now, let's just say that you're lacking in spirituality, and I'm using that term loosely, but you're very, very good when it comes to your belief in Allah and your worships in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your physical actions, but there's a gap as far as your closeness to Allah is concerned, right? And all of those, I mean, you could throw all of those combos around however you want. And some people maybe heavily just focus on their understanding of belief in Allah, but their ibadat, they're lacking in their physical worship to Allah. And so that balance has to be struck properly. That's why in Hadith Jibreel, every single one of those elements were talked about and answered by Muhammad sallallahu, right? One after the other. So as far as spirituality is concerned, yes, there's some groups that claim to be Sufi that can be utilized, and they can have a very, very decent effect on Muslims and the elements that are in society. I agree with that, because sometimes Muslims and just people in general, when we're so engulfed, and you were talking about capitalism, you're talking about materialism, hyper-materialism, and self-centered lives, and all that kind of stuff, and hyper-individualism, you need to have something or be a part of some type of organization that's going to guide you through and out of these loops and out of these pitfalls that you're falling in, right? And do some Sufi groups do that? Of course, they attempt to do that. Some of them are very successful at it, and some of them are not successful, just like any other group that tries to have any initiative, right? But advice that we can give people is, number one, it's not just about an idea of having spirituality. Islam is a deen that the more you practice it, the more sense spirituality makes to you, right? It doesn't make sense that somebody talks about spirituality, but they're neglecting their salawat to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Or they're neglecting very, very basic things. Again, we're all human beings. We have weaknesses and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, just to answer, yes, I think that a lot of these groups, or some of these groups, can be very, very beneficial to Muslims. That's why some people, even if they don't agree with Jamaat Tabligh or Tablighi Jamaat, when somebody's new to Islam and they really need to be in an environment, a lot of scholars, no matter what background they're from, suggest that they go on a Jamaat, like a 40-day Jamaat, a 20-day Jamaat, especially if they're having difficulty in living situations and their food and all that kind of stuff. The Jamaat will take you with them everywhere they go, subhanAllah, and you'll get food. And you'll be praying all your 5 daily prayers. You'll be getting reminders constantly over and over. So there's groups out there that are going to be very beneficial to Muslims in the situation that we're in, of course.
Gotcha. And more, I wanted to, the thing I really want to talk about today was your show earlier with reviewing Muhammad Hijab's encounter with these like Murtadeen and, the Nasara. So
Yeah.
why don't you give the folks a little breakdown about, what your show was about, and then we can kind of go from there.
I mean, I follow a lot of these conversations because I was part of this YouTube community a long time ago, and I still was very much interested in like what's going on, like what the polemicists are doing. So I came across this video of this guy that was just basically attacking Muhammad Hijab. So there's a guy named the Apostate Prophet who is on the YouTube, and he's just like this, I think, Turkish Kurdish murtad that basically just parrots. I mean, even Daniel Hakikachu had like a debate with a guy, but he's a total moron. He knows nothing about Islam. He claims to be a scholar or whatever, but he's a total moron, absolute buffoon. He debates, or he's been wanting to debate Muhammad Hijab. So what he does is he gets David Wood and him on a live stream together, which they do often, and they start goading Muhammad Hijab, like insulting him, calling him a coward, you're this. Oh, and then David Wood goes up and tries to make this claim that I knew Muhammad Hijab 2 years ago. I knew this was the guy because every time I want to debate somebody, they're always the calm, scholarly, nice Muslim guy who makes Islam look good. But I knew Muhammad Hijab was going to be that bold, loudmouth, bully type that's going to make Islam look bad. So I wanted to give all the attention to him so he can discredit, scholars like Yasser Qadi. And, that's how he says it, right? But so essentially he's goading Muhammad Hijab. So Muhammad Hijab responds to this guy. And by the way, Muhammad Hijab insults these people with pretty, and not curses them, but insults them, right? Because he feels like these people are justified to insult them because they insult their enemies of Allah, essentially. This is what he believes. I'm not saying I would do that, but I personally don't have a problem with that. I mean, I know other people might feel like, oh, whatever. I mean, maybe Shaykh Amir can clarify, but there were some harsh words exchanged even after the Battle of Uhud, or where they thought they had injured the Prophet. I mean, the Khandaq. I'm sorry, when they had thought they injured the Prophet ﷺ, and Abu Bakr and Umar responded with with very harsh words to Quraysh, right? But this is, I think, what he understands as a situation. These people are insulting the honor of the Prophet, and keep in mind, these are people that like dress up in dresses to make fun of the Prophet. Like they just, they mock him. So he responds anyways. So what the Apostate Prophet does is he takes a compilation of just the screenshots of, all Muhammad Hijab's, explicit comments, or they weren't even swears. They were just like, I don't know, vulgar maybe or whatever. And he goes, this is Muhammad Hijab. Are you Muslims happy, right? And he puts it out there and doesn't, totally leaves out the fact that Muhammad Hijab was being goaded by these guys for 2 hours on a live stream. Like these guys were cowardly, attacking him. And so he's responding, right? He even said, I want to debate you. I'm ready to debate you. And instead of acknowledging all that, they just basically kept, goading him on a live stream. So this guy, Islam Critiqued, ends up taking that screenshot or that thing and then makes a video about, oh, Islam is imploding. And, popular Muslim apologists are in conflict with, popular Muslim scholars like Yasser Qadi, for example, over the qira'ah of the Quran. And it's just a bunch of nonsense. Like what they're doing is they're nitpicking little audio sound bites and they're making these arguments that don't exist, fictitious arguments. So My point of the video was to say that the Christian apologists today are in a sad state. Instead of critiquing the argument of the Trinity, responding to the argument of the Trinity and against the Trinity and the Christian doctrine, they are choosing to do two things: character assassinate Muslims, and number two, they're also intending to focus on Islam rather than Christianity because they know that explaining Christianity is pretty much hopeless now. I mean, you can't explain the idea of having a man God to anybody anymore. I mean, nobody believes that. I mean, you might as well just be a Hindu at the end of the day, right? I mean, there's no difference, for some other people. But instead of doing that, their idea is we don't even want to make you believe in Christianity. We don't want to make you a Christian. We just want you to leave Islam. It's not even about like you could be whatever. You can be an atheist. Think about this for a moment. A prominent Christian apologist is teaming up with a dirty scumbag murtad atheist to talk about Islam. The picture of that right now, isn't that something that is problematic?
No, you pointed out his sophistry from the beginning when he said, I wanted to show to the Muslims a loudmouth, brash, a Muslim who is belligerent or whatever, someone who doesn't represent Islam very well. Whereas the other option was very respectful people. So he's basically outing himself that he wants to show a specific side of Islam.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, he believes that this is the real Islam, right? But it took him, he said since 2008, it took him 10 years to find somebody, right? Like he's been saying he's been doing this since 2008. He's been looking for somebody. So the point being, though, is that me personally, I'm not throwing Muhammad Hijab under the bus. I love the brother. Muhammad Hijab responds to people the way that he should because those people are enemies of Islam. Like the way they behave, they have no love and they have no respect. So I don't blame him for speaking harshly with those people. If you've seen Muhammad Hijab or any of his videos when he's dealing with people who are respectful, he is very respectful. Muhammad Hijab can be, and here's the thing. They want him to behave that way so they can say, when the Muslim gets mad, this is true Islam. They're just waiting. You see, we brought it out, right? Whereas, I could do the same thing. Like, when in Christianity, when Christians start behaving badly, I could say, well, you know what? They're doing that because the Christian doctrine. They believe that, Jesus died for their sins. They can make any mistake they want to. Who cares? But we don't do that to them, right? That's the problem. They are trying to make Muslims lose their temper and then use them to say this is true Islam. But I believe, in my opinion, people may disagree, but I don't have a problem with Muhammad Hijab calling him a gimp, telling David Wood to give him a golden shower. I don't have a problem with that stuff. I really don't.
Oh, was that really him?
That apparently it was. I don't know. That's why I said allegedly it was him. But apparently he had a check mark next to him, so it means a verified account. I don't know if that's true or not, but I haven't. I said allegedly in my video because I don't know I haven't verified. But even if it was him, right? The comments that these people, if you go onto his Twitter, he says that the only reason why I am saying this stuff is because to demonstrate freedom of speech. They want to come on my show and make a debate with me about saying they want to have the right to insult the prophet. Well, so he responded saying, can I have the right to insult your mother and your family? And they don't want to accept the debate and that challenge. So he's showing that even though he doesn't stoop to that level, he doesn't want to do that. He wasn't going to do that, but to demonstrate that they have a double standard. It's okay for them to insult something dear to us, but you can't insult something dear to them. Right? So this notion of freedom of speech and, Second Amendment rights, it's all nonsense. It's only selective according to them. I think that's what ultimately he was trying to do.
Yeah. Well, when you just brought up freedom of speech, I want to quickly hit on a specific thing that a few listeners commented on and brought to my attention from our previous video, where we were talking about Isaac. What's that? Isaac something from Australia, the comedian, who said something insulting about the people or he made a joke about the victims of the massacre, right? In Christchurch massacre. And we had a small video about it. And And some people were thinking that we're signing off on that this is the type of humor that we consider acceptable. We weren't saying any of that. We said like the opposite. We said we don't think that the murder of anyone or laughing at it or mocking it in any way is acceptable in any way. What we said was that this man is not an Islamophobe. He's not being hateful towards Muslims. He just thinks that it's funny to, in that space, in his comedic environment, that's their thing that they joke about humor or tragedy like that in that way. We didn't say anything or signed off on or gave him permission. This is quite the opposite. It's actually a corruption within the Western society in how far they take everything for entertainment. Whether it's any kind of enjoyment, whether it's the just beauty or in terms of art or in anything, they need to almost rape the art to its most extreme form in order to find pleasure in it, and it's kind of sickening in that sense that their society, which is our society as well, because we live here, Western society has degraded to that manner that everything needs to be upped and upped and upped, and it's the next fix is what they're looking for, and this is what's happened in the comedic world as well, that people now need to find laughter in tragedy. I want to know whether this guy, what's it, Isaac Butterfield? I want to say Butter something.
Isaac Butterfield.
Was that his name? Someone in the.
I have no idea. The guy.
Isaac was in there somewhere.
Isaac something. Comedian Isaac. Australian comedian. Come on.
Isaacson?
Isaac something.
That guy, yeah.
Isaac Butterfield. Yeah, that was his name. That was right. So Isaac Butterfield was. I want to know if, in case he has a sibling or a child, and that child died tragically, if that gave a license to some other comedian or anyone to laugh about and have a good laugh over, is that something that is okay? Because according to his definition of freedom of speech and how he wants to interpret it, there should be no respect towards even the dead. Even the people who have perished tragically, who barely got their life, who basically got their life cut short. If that was his child that another comedian was making fun of, who was slain that day, would he consider that to be okay? I doubt that he would say that's okay.
So there's some comedians that I like to watch their interviews. I like to see how they talk about things, because they are great presenters of whatever they do, their ideas. They're great observers. Comedians are known to be great observers. They're also known to be people who have the highest rates of depression too, right? I think almost out of any profession, especially in entertainment. But if you were to tell them the example that you gave about Isaac Buttersworth, about if something happened to a sibling or a child, they're past that level. They're more they don't want to be known to be people that are not able to take a joke because they're comedians. So they'll tell you, no, I think it's totally fine. They'll give you that phase. But the human fitra, the human being, will never be okay with something like that, right? And you always see this in crowds when somebody walks up and gets up and leaves. They come to the comedy show, they don't like it, and they leave. And then the comedian says, oh, I talked about this, I talked about that. And then when I talked about Syria, then you just got up and left. When I talked about this, you got up and left. Oh, when I talked about that, you got up. What happened all about the other things you were laughing at? All the other misery that people were going through. And then when I talk about specifically about your people, or I talk specifically about just this issue, you get up and you leave, right? So a lot of them, even if you were to say that, I bet you anything, if you were to say that to that dude, Isaac Buttersworth, whatever the case is, if you were to say that to him, he would just be like, no, I'd be totally okay with it. I don't care. I mean, it's just a joke. That's what we are. I mean, that's how we express ourselves as comedians. you know. And then
I think he mentioned that though. He said in the follow-up video that, hey, I don't believe these things. I don't care what religion you are, what nationality, color. I have no prejudice with anybody. This is the kind of shock comedy that I'm in, and it's a whole genre, and many people like it. I'm not saying you have to agree with it, whatever. I mean, I personally like some of that shock comedy. I watch it. I'm not saying any of these guys do that, but I love stuff like The Roast. I watch it, and I find humor in darkness, right? I always find humor. That's just my humor that relates to me. I get it. But people, I get it. I'm not understanding. I mean, it's supposed to be offensive, right? I get that. So if you're offended by that, I understand that. But understand his intention was not to be an Islamophobe, right? So don't make an Islamophobe out of somebody who's not, right? Because we're not involved. Go ahead, Sim.
That's all. That's all we were saying. The fact that there are people who are messaging me and saying that I can't believe you guys signed off on this. Like, we didn't sign off on Jack. We just said that this is not an Islamophobe. That's all we said.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think we're encouraging anybody to watch this guy's comedy, to watch comedy about Muslims being made fun of or tragedies. We're not saying that. We're just saying.
Sorry. Yeah, just to add on to this, like, if I was to ask you, what is it about shock value in comedy that gets people hooked in? What do you think it is?
It's just the idea of ripping on people. I think the whole thing is, I mean, it's just funny. I mean, honestly, if a guy made a bunch of jokes about, I don't know, like Hindus or like Sikhs, or like, I wouldn't care. I mean, I'd laugh at it. I mean, the same way, like, I would say, you know what? Oh, wow, no, he just didn't go there. Like, oh, no, he didn't, right? Like,
that is, a lot of times when we're in a gathering, in a setting where someone's not going to get in trouble for saying something that's very offensive, people laugh at it because they're like, oh my God, because that's what some people think like. But the shock of it being said on a stage is unparalleled to any experience that they're going to have in daily.
Well, I think it's more than that. I think shock comedy is more about being politically incorrect. It's just about basically like taking something that nobody would think that you could joke about and joke about it.
Yeah.
Right. So, for example, joking about the Holocaust,
I think shock comedy has gone a little bit farther than that. It's become exploitative.
Let me give you an example of how shock comedy used to be. Okay, like, and The Roast, like, somebody was like looking at, like, talking about David Hasselhoff, and he goes, David Hasselhoff, you drink so much. What's wrong with you, man? You got a drinking problem. Like, your kidneys probably look like Gary Coleman, shriveled up, small, black, and dry, right? I mean, he says stuff like that, right? And it's so offensive, right? But the thing is that, like, they know they're joking. But again, this is the audience. I mean, keep in mind, these aren't people that are doing it out in the open. People who are in attendance are people who understood this and paid to see this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like he's coming out in the opening to say, oh, look at me, guys, I'm just going to pick on random Muslims and do that, right? So that's just all. For me, I don't really, I mean, like I said, if you shouldn't, I'm not encouraging people to watch it. I'm saying my main bottom line is that he's not an Islamophobe.
Yeah.
Right? That's all I'm saying. I don't care to know what the genre
I brought that up is he knew that that way he get shock from everybody. He knew that I was going to the shock value is there because he obviously knows Muslims are in the media. He knows how protective people are as far as Muslims are concerned. He knows how sensitive other people are about accidentally talking about Muslims. So he knows in that gathering, if he says something, he's going to get a real rise and a real shock out of people. And that's why he did it.
Oh, wait a minute. Oz is saying that he's from Australia and he knows Isaac Butterfield's podcast and he has Avi Yemen. Okay. If this guy has Avi Yemen in his podcast, the hell with the guy. I hope he burns in hell. I mean, I don't think he's an Islamophobe. This guy Isaac Butterfield.
Okay, hold on. So, do you think that having, I don't know who this Avi Yemeni dude is, or
so wait. Let me tell you who Avi Yemeni is. Avi Yemeni is a douchebag little prick Yemeni guy, a Yemenite Jew who comes online and taunts. He's like a right-wing radical in Australia. He taunts Muslims in the street saying, are you going to blow something up? We don't want your jihadi here, habibi, right? And then he goes in and then he also openly admits that he served for the IDF and he had no problem killing innocent Palestinian children. Yila'an abuhum.
AVIM?
Yeah, just look him up just look at in Speaker's Corner where Ali Dawa, Avi Yemeni, Avi Yemeni. Okay, Just look him up. If this guy is friends with this guy and he agrees with, I don't know Isaac Butterfield, I don't know this guy, but if he is encouraging this guy to come on his show, and that just totally flips the whole script. If he's hanging out with this guy and getting down with him, then he's definitely an Islamophobe. And I think everybody cancel him. Go ahead, cancel the hell out of him.
No, but here's the thing: does having someone like that on your show make you like? I don't get. I don't see the correlation.
I agree with Maheen. I don't think that.
No, but I thought the guy was saying that he invites him and other people, and they like he's cool with them. I thought
two people, but yeah, you can invite anybody. I've got like freaking 2 Pentecostal preachers coming on my show Saturday.
No. I mean, I heard he's bashing Islam on the podcast, though. Oh, wait, according to Oz, doesn't he say that he's bashing?
Well, doesn't have Joe Rogan. I don't think Joe Rogan's an Islamophobe, right? Does Islam gets bashed on Joe Rogan?
No, I would call him
Rogan's Islamophobe.
100%.
No, he's not Islamophobe.
I think he is. You know why?
I don't know, man.
Listen. I'll tell you why I think he is.
Very social justice for you.
No, I don't care. No, not social justice. No, I tell you, I can see through people. I have firasa. This fool wants to keep his podcast the way that it is, so he doesn't want to bash Islam directly, but he's happy and willing to bring other people on who will bash Islam, and he encourages other people, like even the apostates, to come on there, but he'll never bring an Islamic person on the show to talk about Islam with them. But he'll bring everybody else and their mother to talk about Islam who's against Islam, but he won't bring a famous Muslim on the show. You don't think it's crossed his mind? People have reached out to him? Nah, I don't buy it. Who? Yeah, and they didn't talk a single. I mean, it didn't even happen.
How's that his fault?
No, because the topic on the show was about mere philosophy. It had nothing to do with Muslims and the clarifying the doubts. He specifically framed it that way, bro.
That's not. I mean, I'm not blaming Faraz. I'm just saying that it's just.
Yeah, it's not like you're blaming Faraz over Joe Rogan.
The discussion didn't go there, but I'm sure if they were to speak about Islam, if somehow that kind of was brought up, I'm sure Faraz would have spoken about it, right?
Look, everyone can justify how you want to. I know 100% Joe Rogan. For my mind, he's an Islamophobe. I think he's just too cowardly to say it.
The people who so the question more, I gotta ask you this: who has he brought? Is there anyone that he's brought on whose entire platform is Islamophobe?
Ali Rizvi.
He had Ali Rizvi on.
Yeah, Ali Rizvi. Yeah, Ali Rizvi is open.
No way. Listen, bro. Hold on.
God had.
Wait 1 second, Sim. Hold on.
God.
Ali Rizvi is a freaking nobody. He doesn't contribute anything to the world, nothing. His only job in this world is to be this cultural Muslim atheist, right? That's all his Twitter thing is about, his public profile. What was the intention behind bringing him on the show?
You know how he got on? Because Sam Harris is friends with Joe Rogan. Sam Harris tells Joe Rogan, hey, Ali Rizvi is a very cool guy. Oh, hey, God Saad is a really smart guy. Bring him on. So these guys ended up getting snuck into Joe Rogan's.
Sim, come on, bro. Joe Rogan's not that stupid. He has a show to maintain. He's not going to take anybody that's going to be on the show and say, "Oh, cool guy, bring him on the show."
This is years ago when they first met. Him and Joe Rogan had a big love affair where they were really tight, and Sam Harris was kind of an ideological mentor for Joe Rogan, and every suggestion for group guests and stuff came through Sam Harris's mouth. And whoever, everything okay, man? You do a press exam?
Sim,
what?
Sim, do you consider Sam Harris an Islamophobe?
Oh, I'm not. I don't think Sam Harris is an Islamophobe per se, but I think there is hatred for Islam in him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like Islamophobe is someone who is purposely agitating the sensibilities of Islam and Muslims, like by portraying the Prophet or sending insults on the Prophet or deliberately attacking the sentiments of Islam and Muslims in what they hold.
Yeah, but Sam Harris does that.
True, and I don't necessarily think that Sam Harris has insulted the Prophet ﷺ in that respect. I think
he tells people, look, bro. He tells people that Muslims are okay, a majority of them, but Islam is evil and Islam is
so I would I have a different answer for that. A different definition of Islamophobe.
People. So what?
Wait, I have a different answer for Islamophobe. It's not just about hold on. Wait, Amir, 1 second, Amir. It's not just about making a drawing of the Prophet. It's not just about saying, oh, Muslims are evil bastards, right? It's about the attitude that you are putting out there, right? It's the attitude and the type, and especially him being an academic, being smarter than he should, knowing better, but using its platform to say, oh, I hate all religions, but right now Islam is the most evil thing that they're confronted with. And to the point where he writes a book where he had to issue a retraction, basically saying that since the West is morally superior to everybody else, that the ends justifies the means, that we were morally superior in bombing these Muslim countries and killing innocent Muslims, because at the end we're still better people.
That doesn't make sense.
To me, it does, because you know why? Because he won't say that.
That's his Western, superior.
Well, I'll tell you something.
Complex where they feel that their morals are on a moral high ground, that their intentions are pure, and therefore they're justified in doing what they do. And this is what the big.
Well, the problem is that was the ending of it. He premised that by saying that Islam is the most evil threat in the world right now. To me, anyone with half a brain that studies terrorism and all these things knows that Islam, the number of terrorism incidents that Muslims face, and especially in the Western world, or the number of terrorism events here in the Western world, are eclipsed by the one of right-wing terrorism. Okay? He knows that. He's not stupid. He's an actor. If he was a layman, I wouldn't say that. He's smart, dude. He knows what he's talking about. He knows that there's studies out there that debunk this myth, that Islam and Muslims are the most radical threat in the world today. He knows that. Okay? Whether if he doesn't like Islam, that's one thing. I don't care. But
it's an intellectual attack, is what I'm saying. I'm saying until you cross that line where you're insulting the Prophet and you're sending vitriol and hate, and you're disrespecting my being and my sensibilities and what I hold dear and true, you're still on the realm of an intellectual debate with me.
But you can be an intellectual Islamophobe.
Genuine person, Morty, he could be a horribly disingenuous person, which I think you're right about in that sense. He may be disingenuous to extraordinary levels, but does that make him an Islamophobe? Is the question.
Okay, let me ask you this: who do you consider an Islamophobe?
I think there are anyone who there's people who on the far left or far right end in terms of the
reason I ask is I want to know your definition of Islamophobia.
Yeah, give me an example, because I can make what you just defined. I could apply to anybody right now criticizing Islam.
There's people on Twitter who have taken the Prophet's image, and they've been
they say that's a matter of my principle, that we live in the West, we embody freedom of speech, and Islam is against freedom of speech. So I'm here to stand up for my right of freedom of speech. They can actually argue about everything, dude.
In the sense of when they're disrespecting the Prophet, and I think that's Islamophobe.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's disrespectful to us because we want it, but to them it's not disrespectful. The same way that when you said that to Sam Harris right now, it's like, well, that's just his Western mindset, thinking it's okay to kill because that it's the benefit. He thinks he's superior.
Anything against Muslims is
no. I'm saying specifically, Sam Harris has mentioned that Islam is his problem. He specifically hones in.
He's entitled to have Islam as his problem. Why is it that it bothers us so much that someone?
It doesn't bother me. I'm just labeling what he is.
So let him be completely against Islam in every way possible, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he is against or what he's not attacking Islam on an intellectual level. As long as he's bringing in points that are whether they're credible or not, as long as he's trying to have an academic discussion, it's warranting a response from Muslims. That's all.
I think I define it way differently than you do. I define it way differently because I deal with these people. So I deal with them a lot. And I know when someone's Islamophobe when they're not. Okay. Having a critical argument saying, hey, you know what? Let me give you an example. All right. I'll give you an example of the difference here. And this might be offensive to some. I can't believe in Muhammad because Muhammad was a pedophile. Now that to me is not an Islamophobe. But to say that Muhammad was a pedophile because Islam is the most evil system in the world and that we justify eradicating it from the world, that's an Islamophobe to me. You understand? He's advocating for people to turn and to isolate Muslims and to blame entire. It's different to say I can't do something.
Okay.
Right? Sam Harris encourages people to be militant atheists, bro. There's a big difference in this.
I can concede that. I think you have a point in that respect because Sam Harris did say that we have a moral high ground in destroying in a nuclear first strike. I remember now him saying, do we have the moral high ground in launching a nuclear missile at Muslim countries? And his answer was, yes, we have the moral high ground in destroying Muslims. because our values are better than theirs.
Okay. You know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to find a clip because one of somebody from the audience was saying maybe we can do it right now with StreamYard to see the clip with Avi Yemeni on that guy's podcast. Would you want to guys take a look at that? I don't know if you guys want. Oh, by the way, listen, before we do that, you guys want to try something? You want to throw the link for this to join in and see if one guy can jump in and see if anyone has comments to make to us on the live stream?
Yeah, sure.
You guys want to try that?
Sure.
All right, let's do that.
Do that. By the way, while you're doing that, more I sent look at the WhatsApp. I wanted to get is that image. So one of the guys that's coming on my show Saturday posted that image on his Facebook.
Hold on, let me see.
Image. He's a Christian. Open, check it out. It's on a WhatsApp.
Okay, 1 second. Hold on. I got so many windows open here. So WhatsApp. Let me see here.
It's on our group. You see that?
Okay, hold on. Wait, let me.
Can you share your screen more?
Wait, I will, but hold on. I need to hide some things, buddy. Hold on 1 second.
Oh, what do you gotta hide?
Hey, I think you should call him out on that, Maheen.
Wait, hold on 1 second.
Oh yeah, you gotta hide that.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me share the screen. Can you guys see this? All right. It says Satan, and right below Satan is Islam and other religions, atheism, Democrats, LGBT, BLM. Well, to be honest, it's true disciples of Jesus Christ.
They're standing up, and then lukewarm Christians not doing jack.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think
BLM is in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think this guy's Islamophobe. I think he's just stupid. I think he's just dumb, right? I mean, I don't think he knows much about Islam. You see, in order for my thing about an Islamophobe is this, right? Is that he has to research Islam and then try to misrepresent arguments within Islam and then make most people hate Islam, right? Make people hate Muslims and advocate like harm to them or prejudice against them. That is an Islamophobe. This is an opinion to me. I could care less about your opinion. You're some douchebag. That doesn't affect anything in the world. I mean, I wouldn't blink an eye if you die tomorrow. It wouldn't care to me, right? I wouldn't care. But a guy like who has influence over people, who's knowing better, is going out and doing that and propagating nonsense is an Islamophobe to me. All right. Hey, we have someone in here who is Jay. Let's see who Jay is. Hopefully, this is the first time we're doing this, so hopefully it's not gonna be some weirdo. I don't know who this is.
Wait, you just sent it out to everyone?
Yeah. Let's just see. All right, here we go, Jay.
No. Jay,
all right.
Long time listener, first time caller. Oh, Jay.
Oh, we left them. Okay. No one else wants to jump in. All right. Well, that link is open. So if anybody wants to jump in,
jump in, guys. Come on. Let's.
Yeah. And Martin, where are you at? My Dutch colonizer friend. Come on.
I mean, okay, wait. I have to keep up. So I have a text.
Let's get Martin in. Martin
van Elst from the Netherlands.
Oh,
from Rotterdam.
Yeah. We should, Martin. Can you get me Geert Wilders? I want to interview that guy. I heard his grandmother's Indonesian. He's not even pure white, and he's advocating for like these white nationalist parties. I'd love to call him out.
That's when he became Muslim, Geert Wilders.
No, that's Joram van Kleffen.
Oh yeah, it's Joram.
Yeah.
I get all these Dutch names all mixed up.
Yeah, I know. He was on a different. Wait, I'm trying to find. Can someone in the chat here, whoever is familiar with Avi Yemeni, give me the clip of Avi Yemeni and Butterfield talking about stuff? Okay, Jay is back. Let's try to get Jay back in. Hello, Jay.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you, my brothers?
Alhamdulillah.
It's your brother Jacob from Australia.
Welcome, Jacob. Assalamu alaikum.
So we've been following you guys for some while now. MashaAllah, you guys have done amazing stuff on your podcast. Allahumma barik. And there's a few guys here in Australia that really follow the stuff that you guys do. So I just wanted to ask you a question. This might not be related to the discussion at hand, but there isn't much podcasts and stuff that you guys do here in Australia. If someone wanted to start up a podcast, where do you start?
I'm gonna let Sim go ahead and answer that question.
Jay, my man Mort just had a episode on setting up a podcast, but I think one of the most important things you want to do before you even start a podcast is figure out what you want to do different compared to what's already out there. Nowadays, the ability to create podcasts has become so diverse, and everyone from all walks of life has a podcast now, and you really have to figure out how you're going to do something different from everyone else, and really make it attractive so that different people, are actively wanting to come and listen to you, and actually your effort is spent wisely. One of the benefits of listening to podcasts is that it actually has to improve not only the lives of your audiences, but also your own life and your own being and your own participation in humanity. You being a better believer and et cetera. So is this podcast effort? Is that effort? Could that time be spent better otherwise in other community activity? Can you collaborate with someone who's already? I know in Australia there's brothers like Boys in the Cave and whatnot. I don't know who else is doing podcasts over there, but you may want to see if those guys need help and see if you can participate in any way with existing projects so that you could lift up that project that might not necessarily have the support that it needs. But that's something that I'm always open for in terms of TMM listeners and people who are fans of our show who want to get involved. We're always looking for people who can volunteer their time in building thumbnails and titles and participate in any way in joining our team, whatever skills they have. But we don't pay anyone, so it has to be
of course.
So Sim, can I ask you while Jason's still on? Like you said, do something very different. Let's say Jason wants to just have a podcast.
Is it Jacob or Jason?
Jacob.
My bad, Jacob. So let's say there's so many people that have podcasts just on, let's just say tafsir. Let's just say tafsir or hadith, something Islamically related. So are you telling him to do something different, like don't do if you see a lot of that, or choose something in tafsir but just do it differently than everybody else is doing?
Let me jump in real quick, Jacob. What are you like as an individual? What are you interested in? This is something Mort and I were talking about last week because. Go ahead.
Do you mean like hobbies or
hobbies? Yeah. What are you into? Are you into rugby
sports,
or
sports? Fishing, I guess. Adventurous stuff.
Okay.
But what I meant by the question that I asked was, podcast was one of the ideas that I had in mind here. We do have a strong Muslim community, alhamdulillah, here in Australia, particularly Sydney. But I find that the da'wah is kind of lacking. I kind of feel like that it's just based around masajid, only in-house lessons, stuff. There's not actually like public stuff, public da'wah happening here. So I'm not saying I'm going to be the one to start it. No. But like, if just to step in the right direction. I see the brothers in UK, even you guys, stuff like this. This is a form of da'wah. This stuff reaches, me here in Australia. So, as I said, anything like that, because the da'wah here is kind of, the public da'wah at least is lacking.
So when you, sorry to cut you off, Jacob, one quick thing, just on what you're saying. If da'wah is lacking, what do you see lacking in the da'wah, which means that whether you find somebody who has a podcast or you want to start your own podcast, you could focus on that specific thing. Let's say you say that there's 5 things that they're not focusing on that you should be focusing on. You can invite guests accordingly, right? So what would you say? And sorry to put you on the spot.
No, you're all right.
What are some of the things, or even one thing that you think is lacking? Not because people are lazy or they don't know what they're doing, but it's just not enough people working on da'wah. So what's one thing you think that should be done?
So da'wah to non-Muslims, that'll be the number one thing. I know, the da'wah to Muslims, of course, is very essential, but da'wah to non-Muslims here is not that, not that prioritized or not really looked at the way that you guys or the brothers in the UK or anywhere else, da'wah stands in the non-Muslim majority areas, things like that. It's just, that's what I mean by lacking. Podcasts, there is podcasts, but it's not that, they're not really targeting the audience. You see how you guys speak about stuff that's going on around the world? For example, the Hagia Sophia in Turkey, or what's going on with the politics in America, or what's going on with the LGBTQ, whatever it is. Things like that. People want to listen. They're interested in these kind of things. Obviously, it's all, da'wah, foundation of it is da'wah, but things that people are, you attract the non-Muslim and the Muslim audience as well. Mm-hmm. The podcasts here, I don't find that they do that much in that sense, targeting in that kind of audience.
Jacob, I hear what you're saying. Let me chime in real quick, and we have another listener that's going to jump on. So I'm going to answer. No problem. I'm going to answer this question for you. So I think you need to. This is what I'll say. There's lots of Muslim podcasts out there right now. There's a ton, right? So trying to do I don't see our. I'm glad you see us that way as da'wah. I see it. We're infotainment kind of thing, but. Listen, if you want to I think you should focus on something for non-Muslims specifically. Don't try to be da'wah for because that's what you said. I think you started talking about da'wah for Muslims and focus. You're a convert to Islam. You had this experience. Focus on a podcast then that would be specifically da'wah to non-Muslims, and you can then do random topics about specific issues, deconstructing other philosophies, ideologies, religions. Bring on other converts who talk about their stories. That I think would work for you. But those are my thoughts.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So I think if you covered that niche, but don't try to do everything. Focus on that, and then inshallah, you'll have tawfiq in that. All right.
All right, great stuff. So we got here to get him off, and now we got somebody else that's coming. I think this will be the last one of the night, but we have Oz M, who was in the chat. He's also from Australia. He's joining in, so we're going to go ahead and get him in and welcome Oz. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, brothers. How are you? Hopefully you're all well.
How's it going?
Good. I'm going well. Thank you so much for an amazing show today. I just wanted to focus on Isaac Butterfield. You guys have been having a very interesting conversation about Isaac Butterfield. Just to give you some context, so Isaac Butterfield would be known as the Steven Crowder of Australia, if you guys are familiar with Steven Crowder over there in America. Mm-hmm. So yes, Isaac Butterfield might not be an open Islamophobe, but he's given platforms to Avi Yemeni, Gad Saad, and he's also attacks mostly Muslim personalities in the media and politicians. So it would be like somebody attacking Ilhan Homer constantly, or different. I understand there's different political views, but he does go after these types of Muslims. So that's just the context. And so for me, when I heard the joke, I wasn't that offended, but then I put two and two together and I'm like, yeah, I don't really care if people are going after him. So just wanted to put that out there.
Absolutely. All right, thank you. No, I'm glad you called him, because to be honest, for me, I had no idea who he was, and to be honest, it was just a little bit confusing, because I thought he was just a guy. I mean, if he's this kind of person who's giving platforms, like I said, I think people do things for conscious reasons. It's not just a one-time thing. If I've looked at his YouTube channel or the clips, and he continually brings on Avi Yemeni, and Avi Yemeni is, anyone who knows him, if you would know very clearly that he is an Islamophobe and hates the left, but he is a very open Islamophobe. So that was a dead giveaway to me. I'm not going to, say much more on that, meaning that, I know the guy, now I kind of know where he's coming from. So I'm not going to basically just say that he was an ignorant person. I just think that he has an agenda behind it now.
Yeah, folks, all I'm saying is just my own thing is that I don't like to just label someone as an Islamophobe and just discredit them. Well, just as Mark was saying, there are people like Sam Harris and etc. There are many horrible people who wish to cause much great harm to Muslims and even violence towards Muslims, but are very careful with their language and are almost surgical with how they construct the framework in how they speak about Islam and Muslims, so that it's not easily apparent. And I didn't know much about Isaac Butterfield in the sense of Avi Yemeni being involved with him, and hope, alhamdulillah, we have listeners who are in tune and have corrected us. So leave that dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, we're not. Look, I think here's the bottom line. I think people know that we're not in this big cancer culture thing. But when someone definitely is clearly, if a spade is a spade, we're gonna come out and say, hey, look, we probably misjudged that guy. I can say that. I thought he was just a regular ignorant person, but given that I provided some background about the guy, I will retract what I said before and say he's not just an ignorant fool. He is clearly someone who has an agenda. And if that's for me, it totally changes the perspective on the joke that he made about Christ, the Christchurch massacre.
I hate that we as Muslims refer or use the word Islamophobe to discredit someone. And I really want our thoughts and our critiques or whatever arguments we're coming up with to be much more informed and educated, and be very surgical in our response back to people, other than, oh, he's an Islamophobe and you're hurting my feelings, and then you just pound your fist and go off into the distance, or go off on Twitter crying about how oppressed you are and what a victim you are. And this is not, I think, a quality of Izzah that the Prophet ﷺ left for us, for his ummah, that we have this petulant, childish behavior where, I don't imagine Sahaba ever wanting or seeking pity from others, and I remember even during the boycott, people from their homeland, from Makkah, they, out of their own sentiments, out of their own their loyalty or their feelings towards the Muslims, they went out of their way and they fed family members and other people who are affected by the boycott. But the Muslims who are affected by the boycott, they never went and cried about it to the Quraysh or the Meccan society about their unfair treatment. This is not a quality of the Muslim believer. I strongly feel that, and I hope, whether he is an Islamophobe or whoever else out there is an Islamophobe or not, that we take into mind or take into consideration that we need to sharpen our tools, our debate, the ability to construct arguments back at these people, and make sure that we don't make fools of ourselves in the process. So thank you all for joining us this evening. We'll see you all next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Salam.